So this is regarding the eighth experiment. This eighth experiment includes parallel processing using multithreading. And the first question given is we have to do this question using implementing runnable interface. When creating a thread, we can do it by two ways. First one is like we can implement using a runnable interface, and the second one is by extending a thread class. In this first question, we are going to use the first method. We can use implementing runnable interface, and this is the code I've used. The first line, class word thread implements runnable. This class word thread is implementing the runnable interface, and the private string text. This string which is we are going to enter that defines it. And word thread, this line is like the constructor for this code. And word thread string text. This string which we are going to enter in the as a paragraph is going to be converted into text. And this keyword refers to the text we are going to enter, like this specific instance. And public void run. This run like explains what we are going to do in the word thread. And the first operation we are doing is string words is equal to text dot split this one. And what it does it so this line public void run, this run describes what is going to happen in the code. And what is happening here is string words is equal to text dot split. This line is like if there is any white space in the paragraph, each word is split according to the white space. And this loop for string word to words, every word in the paragraph is looped, and everything is printed using this print statement. And this try and catch block checks the possible exception. Interrupt exception checks if there is any thread that is interrupting the process when there is a thread sleep. This thread sleep like prints everything for every 2 seconds, prints every word. And this is class bubble thread implements runnable. It's the same thing as the word thread. And this is the private string, and this is the constructor. And this public void run, this defines what is going to happen here. And for char c text dot to character array, it like changes every word in the paragraph to character. And in this if statement, if a e i o u dot index of c is not equal to -1, this checks if there is a vowel, and it prints. Try and catch it does the same thing from the word thread. It checks if there's an exception during the sleep time. And this public class runnable interface is the main class we are using. And scanner SC, this is the scanner. And enter a paragraph of the text. This is for the input. And thread one, this is for word thread which prints every word. And this is for thread two is for the vowel thread which prints every vowel. And we are starting both the threads and we are closing. That's it. So when we run this code and it asks us for a paragraph, I'm going to enter hello, I am Niyali. And this for every 2 second grab it prints a word, and it is also printing the vowels like hello, and there is I am Naren, and there's all these vowels which are in the paragraph, and that's so this is for the second question in eighth experiment. This question involves creating a thread using extend thread class method, and the code is here. And in this code, the first line class event thread extends thread. This event thread which you are going to use, this class event thread we are going to use event thread class. It extends itself from the main thread class, so it becomes a thread class itself. And int numbers, this is like where the input we are going to put is going to be stored. And event thread int numbers, this dot numbers, this like the variable, and the numbers are the parameters which is going to be stored inside this int numbers. And public void run, this explains what is going to happen in the event thread. And here it is a basic for loop for int n two numbers. It loops through basically every element of the array, and if the array modulus 2 is equal to 0, it prints out the element. And this try and catch block is thrown when there is like any interruption during the sleep time, that is 2 seconds, and that is about that. And class odd thread extends thread. This odd thread also becomes a thread class by extending itself from the thread class. So, and this is int numbers. This is where same in numbers. This is going. where the elements are going to be stored, and odd thread int numbers, and this dot numbers is like the variable and numbers are the parameter. And in this void run we are using the same for loop int n to numbers. We are also looping through every element in the array, and if the element modulus by 2 doesn't give a remainder as 0, it prints out the element. And this try and catch block does the same thing as that. And this is our main class, public class extending thread, and it takes the input like enter 10 numbers, and it loops through 10 elements. It takes 10 elements, and this sc dot int an extent is the input which is going to take, and numbers I, this is where the elements are stored in the array format. And even thread even is like we are creating a new thread class, not thread class exactly, thread object. Even thread even is equal to new even thread, and odd thread the same thing. We are going to create an odd one, and we are starting the even and odd one. If we run this code, it asks us to enter 10 numbers. Let's 10, 15, 5, 65. Enter 10 numbers, and it prints out the odd and even numbers. Like there's this even numbers 10 and 4 and 76. There's odd numbers like 23, 5 and 65 and others, and everything is like given as output. That's it. So this is for the third question of the eighth exercise, and this question involves using either the extends thread method or implementing runover interface to complete this question. And what I have used is like use the extends thread method to do this. And in this code, like class table thread extend, we have to create like two threads. The first one is like table thread, and the second is divisor thread. And the first thread class table thread extends thread. This table thread extends from the thread class, making it a thread itself. And int num, this int num is like the number for which we are going to like find the multiplication table and do the table thread. And this table thread int num, the num is taken as parameter, and this dot num is like the variable, and num is the parameter. And in this run, public void run, we are using a basic for loop for int I is equal to 1 to I is lesser than or equal to 10, I plus plus. We are going to we are like going to loop from 1 to 10, and like create the multiplication table. System would print num. This num is like the number we are going to input. Like take for example 1, like 3. 3 plus this is the multiplication symbol plus I, plus I is the int I we are which we are declared in the for loop, and plus num into 1. We are like basically multiplying it and giving the answer. And this try and catch, this whole block is thrown when there is an interruption during the sleep method, sleep time, that is 2 seconds. And here comes the second thread, the class divisor thread, which is basic for division, and it extends itself from the thread class, so making it a thread itself. And int number, in num is the num for which we are going to find the divisors, and divisor thread takes the a number as in parameter input. And this dot num is like a variable, and parameter num is the parameter we are going to use. And in this, we are looping for int I is equal to 1. We are like basically starting from not from 0 but from 1. And I is less than or equal to the divisor should be like less than the number we are going to give. And if the number is modulus, like when divided by I doesn't give any remainder, we are going to print out the I. That I is going to be found out. And this try and catch block does the same thing it has done here, like throw the exception when there is any interruption. And this public class multiplication and division is the main class, and it takes the input enter a number, and it does like basically both the things, multiplication table and the devices of it. This table thread we are like creating a new object thread, and table t1 handles the table thread, and it t2 handles the divisor thread. And if we run this code, it asks us to enter number. Let's say for an example 7, and 7, for 7 there is like only 1 and 7 divides 7 and doesn't give a reminder, and others are like the multiplication table 7 into 1, like 7 is the 7 times 1 I is 1 and it prints the whole multiplication table and that's it about the third question.